The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview.
I don't know who's wrong here. The woman for doing what she did or the station for firing her over it? This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com. Make sure you get the merch link in the description section. Monday the 8th is the last day for our 55% off 4th of July sale, Independence Day sale. So if you go on, you take advantage of 55% off. There's no code. If you put particular items that are on the sale into the cart, it automatically discounted at 55%. So go take advantage of it now. It'll be over on the 8th. Like, subscribe to the channel. You already know what to do. Let's get into this. The biggest thing I want you guys to do is like the video, like. All right, here's an interesting story that I saw over the weekend. It seems like everybody's talking about it. It's very interesting what happens. It, to me, speaks to the Biden administration and how incompetent the Biden administration is, how incompetent Joe Biden is. And the crazy thing is not just what happened, the fallout of what happened, and the Biden administration's response to that is what's crazy to me. Now, this subject in particular, I'm not sure who's wrong on this. I kind of agree with the radio station for firing her. I kind of agree with them because they purported that they are, I would say they make their bets on being authentic, not being biased towards any candidate. So therefore they don't accept any special privileges. They don't want questions before the interview because that hurts the integrity of the radio station and it hurts the integrity of interviews because allegedly the host should come up with questions that are compelling and that's not doing softball questions at a presidential candidate. Therefore, the person is going to have a real response to questions and not getting coached into making them look as positive as possible because then that's doing a disservice to the people that are listening. So the radio station fired this woman because she took questions and read the questions back to Joe Biden in the interview that she did with him. So, but at the same time, if the president is suggesting, the campaign is suggesting that you ask these questions, do you ask them or not, right? Let's listen to it on the news. Roll the clip.
Asked 4 questions, and maybe that's what you were allowed to ask by the campaign or the White House, but they were essentially the same questions, both interviews, about accomplishments, progress in your respective state, what's at stake in the election, what he has to say about his debate performance, and what he would say to voters who think their vote doesn't matter or might sit this election out. Were those questions given to you by the White House or the campaign, or did you have to submit questions ahead of this interview?
The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved.
Okay. And the reason I ask is not a criticism of either of you. It's just that if the White House is trying now to prove the vim, vigor, acuity of the president, I don't know how they do that by sending questions first before the interview so that the president knows what's coming.
Now, the campaign in a statement did not deny providing these questions to that radio show host, but they did add that the interview was not conditioned on acceptance of those questions and added that any reporter can ask the questions that they see fit. Now, today, the campaign is also saying that they're changing their practices going forward and that they will no longer be recommending questions ahead of interviews. One source familiar with the Biden booking operation over at the campaign said, while interview hosts have always been free to ask whatever questions they please, moving forward, we will refrain from offering suggested questions.
Now let's talk about this. As a person who has done numerous interviews on television, it's so much going on here. First and foremost, I've been on Fox News. I've been on all kind of news networks. Most of the news networks, when a person like me comes on, they want my talking points of a certain subject, right? So if I go on to talk about police brutality in Baltimore or the lack thereof, the host will say, can Brandon send 3 talking points related to this topic? And I hate doing it because it's a waste of my time, because why would I send you talking points when you just ask me the question you think you want to ask me because you the one invited me on the show? But I try to be reasonable and send them talking points, right? So I'll say, the truth of the matter is police brutality isn't even a thing according to the stats. Race hustlers have a vested interest in pointing these things out ahead of the election. As a former police officer, I've seen some police brutality, but most of it is frauds or whatever. Most of it is a fraudulent thing. Those are the kind of things I'll send back to them, and then they'll ask questions. And I don't remember them ever asking me questions associated with the talking points that I sent them. So it's a waste of my time and a waste of everybody else's time. But one thing I have never done is if I'm interviewing somewhere, I send them questions to ask me, right? I send them questions to ask me. And then they approve of questions, and I know what questions they're going to ask ahead of time. I'm not saying it's totally irrelevant to do that. I just don't do that, right? I don't know why a president would do that if they're being authentic in interviewing with somebody. Because if you have nothing to hide or anything like that, the host should be able to, you're the president of the United States of America. The host should be able to ask you any questions that they so choose. And you shouldn't recommend any questions to them because you want this to be a fair and impartial interview. You don't want anybody to have anything to say about how you perform, especially when he's under the radar or under the, in the crosshairs, because he's completely incompetent. The debate, Stephanopoulos, I think that's how you say his name, Stephanopoulos. That interview, and then he's going around the country trying to get interviews on black radio and sending questions that they can ask so they can prepare him for all these question options to make him look better than he is. Like I just don't think that makes sense. Now, on the campaign side, it makes sense if you're trying to make him look good, right? It makes sense if you're selling a book and you say, hey, here's the questions I want you to ask me about my book that I'm selling. But the presidency is not selling books. The presidency should be an authentic approach to the questions that people may have for him. I will say this, as a president, you want to look good, right? So if she asks you some random off the cuff question, you want to have some statistical data to assess that so you can give her a great answer. But still, at the end of the day, that's not authentic, right? As the president, you should know all the talking points known to man when it comes to the economy, when it comes to what the American people want, what they want to hear, whatever the case may be. You should already be studying these things, looking at note cards so you have the statistical data right there with you. If you're not prepared and you're not comfortable with it, don't do the interview. But the second thing is her radio station fired her. And I have to lean more towards agreeing with them for firing her. Because what she did was she went on CNN and admitted that as if the radio show is coddling to Joe Biden. And they're doing softball questions towards him or throwing softball questions towards him so he can hit it out of the park. They won't do that for Trump. They won't do that for other politicians. So then the integrity of the radio show, the radio station, is hampered when you have people acting like that. So comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about what had happened and do you think that they were wrong for firing this woman? I give her kudos for being honest and telling the truth on CNN. To me, it's just an indication that Joe Biden is struggling and that he's losing support all over the place and he's getting embarrassed every time he opens his mouth to do an interview. Comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Link is in the description section to get you some of that merch. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.